This is a little Spanish lesson today. We're going to keep things a little simple real quick. In Spanish, they screwed up when the translators, something happened. I don't know if it's just street Spanish. It's been too long since I was in university with the Spanish course that I flunked from the Cuba teacher. Boy, she was literally militist. I don't remember that word. Like militaristic. Como la militar, pues. Anyway. When I first started talking to like Chilango buddy Luis, I'd say, hey man, ¿cuánto ganas? And if you know Spanish good, well, word by word. Well, here it is. Beach hair, I don't care. Say, ¿cuánto gana? Well, that means, what do you win? And I was like, my buddy Max, I later got into it with him. I was like, hey man, you grew up in Oaxaca? What? Where the heck does this ¿cuánto ganas come from? And he goes, that's just how we say it. So it might be a cultural thing. So I said no, because I had Max. He was a good guy. And I said, Max, conmigo lo mereces. And he loved that. Because that's another thing that back in the day, and I'm not that old, the end of the boomers anyway, that gives too much away. It's TMI, I don't like to talk about my age, I don't like to think about it. But anyway, I'm in my 50s, let's just say that. And if you're worried about my wheezing, don't worry, because I do smoke, but I do exercise too. If you see my workout videos, you know why. And so I have asthma, and it helps. Smoking actually calms down my asthma a bit, but I've always wheezed, so I sound bad, but it's not that bad. I do Wim Hof breathing techniques if it gets too bad, so don't worry if you are worried about my wheezy or whatever. I'm not emphysema or COPD or any of that. I actually run when I run, and then it clears out that stuff real good. So, anyway. Back to ¿cuánto ganas? And so, yeah, I told Max, I'm like, no, just say ¿cuánto mereces? Because we used to say, how much do you earn? And now it's like, how much do you make? And it's a similar tweak, but actually works. Because that's the other thing that I said to Max. I'm like, it should be ¿cuánto haces? And he's like, well, that would mean how much you make. And I'm like, yeah, because you work and you make. Because it's like you're earning it. And he was just like, people think I get a little weird about things like this, but if you look at earnings, then it's like Santa Claus and the Golden Rule, and it's all that stuff. So it's kind of like a mindset, So I'm just going to do this in tongue so everybody gets it, because I like X too. And I like the angel thing too, because this is a really big thing. because I just did this video the other day on tongues like Acts 2. I don't remember which one, but I just did tongues like that, just out of the blue, and said, if anybody like knows that, I don't know what it is, but yeah, then send me a message. And I got one real quick, and it was like, I didn't understand the message because I don't read that language. I mean, I guess I can, see. So, like, that's what I'm saying, like, tongues of angels stuff. That stuff is kind of like, I earned it. And people always want to talk about, do you have the gift of tongues? And, like, I can see people on chats like, oh, I've been praying for the gift of tongues and it hasn't come yet, so I don't know if I'll ever be filled with the Holy Spirit. It's not like that. That's like the Island movie, which I think might be happening right now in a lot of the church. Because the whole idea is, hey, God's like a lottery ticket. If you just believe like this, then you win. And everybody else, well, sucks for them. And if you ever saw that movie, it's actually, I think it's like a really great show because there's a lot of ways it could be coming true. Kind of like Matrix. Matrix, I think, could be coming true for anybody that like has faith in government, and that's the red blue pill. Blue pills. It's actually, in full force right now, but I think the end might be ending more like once you get the blue pill dark side figured out, like, oh no, it's all demonic. And then what happens is you're like the exits or whatever. The ending is like the X-Men. I think, I'm telling you, Hollywood 2 could be, true story, could be really quite a show for some of us that are like on the right page with the King. So we're not stressed because he told us everything, like, peace be with you. Anyway. So back to the island. The thing about the island was that everybody thought that they were all in like this prison, like whatever, like, and that it was just like, oh man, this sucks. And they would just have this hope that they win to go to the island and it was paradise, but they were actually being like sacrificed and they didn't know it because they were like, organ, what do you call harvesting? Kind of like they do all the gaslight stories on China about. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is, I'm taking so long to get to the point, but I'm trying to do like 2-in-1 videos, so it's not too bad. So here's the thing. See, when you make earnings at work, like, okay, when I first worked drywall at Hokulele, and man, I want to go back over there and see how it came out still. Like, this is track house, but man, those things, we worked hard on those things. They're beautiful houses. And I got to do a lot of drywall work there. It was great. I mean, there's like 250 houses. I didn't do them all, but I got in on it early. And I remember my boss, he'd take me out and he goes, you see all this? And I'm like, yeah. It's like, all these houses getting built. And he's like, this is like a dream for people like you. You got to realize what you got here. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, because there's guys looking for work that they can never have this much work all in one place. And you can you can do so much. You can get so much experience here. You can make so much money here. And there's some guys who are never going to get a job like this. And so that's like, perspective. But before you earn, you get me? So it's not about winning or the lottery. Just like the movie, you know what I mean? Because those guys, they were just like, oh, I hope I win. And then they went, all right, I'm going, but they're dead, right? So the thing is, that's a lot like the churches, in a lot of ways. Because you've got all these people, they're like, oh, I'm saved, I hope. Or they're, even if these tongues people are like, oh, if I'd only get the gift of tongues, it's like, dude, no. You're like before you're paycheck came. You know what I mean? And it's not that you like want the gift of tongues. It's just like gold that he gave you. But if you look for it and talk about it and brag about it, you're probably not going to get it because it's not that kind of thing. It's kind of like when people, I think sometimes that people want the gift of tongues and they end up like, it's like, I think some of the demons are kind of like Darth Vader, you know, like in Star Trek. And he's like, Luke, come to the dark side, come to the dark side. And the person's there like, oh, she rode a Honda, and it doesn't click. You know what I mean? Because they're like trying to feel for it in the wrong way. They're like, you know what I mean? Like looking for the lottery ticket when it's a sacrifice. And so then when you look too hard and you're like, then you'll end up like winning when you should have been earning, if you see what I mean. Like, so like a demon's actually Darth Vader, but he's dressed as an angel of light, which they're really good at doing because remember, demons used to be angels. So if you're trying to talk tongues of angels, there's dangers there too. And that's why I didn't ever really look for that one. I never really did because I just learned Spanish because I was like looking at the like drywall job style, you know what I mean? Where the guy's like, dude, look at all these houses. And I was like, wow, I could earn a lot of money and get great experience too, because I love working drywall. But I quit doing it after a couple of years because too many people had trashed their back too badly. So I was like, oh, dude, that sucks. I don't want to get like that. So, but I still do it. So I'm not like anti-drywall. I still love it. I just kind of had a fear of going on that other side of the lottery side, you know, where you're kind of burnt. So, but that's the thing, is you just got to focus on what is earnings and what is winnings, because that's what it's all about. And not that you're earning your salvation, but your redemption, because you're sealed. You're not saved. People's got to get these stupid doctrinal terms out of their head. Like eternal security, and it's all bullshit. Okay? Just think eternal security is, you know, like, so here's the thing. Everybody loves to say, well, if you're really holy, then tongues will come upon you. Like, that's the thing I wish Catholics wouldn't do, is they say, oh, Peter was the rock. He was like Christ right there. He was like so perfect. That's why he was used like that. Or don't start idolizing, please. You know what I mean? We're already in too many danger zones there, kind of like tongues. So, you know what I mean? It's just like there's too many wrong ways to go. Because if you're like really like, oh, I can't get it. And your heart's not right because you're not earning anything. You're just slacking off in your house going, oh, I just feel so good if I could speak in tongues and be so close to my Lord. But you just need to talk to him like one-on-one, like with your heart and your mind. And if you did that alone, like, oh, King, you know, and did that whole Acts prayer or whatever, then yeah, tongues might come, but that's not how it works. It's just about your heart and being with the King. And if you spend time with him and talk to him, and if you wanted tongues, if you did like I did, like drywall, and just like learned Spanish, like the hard way, and immersion works great, you know? So, you know, then when you speak Spanish, then tongues might come to you. Like when I first preached in Spanish, I never got paid. Somebody just asked me, but part of it was that he taught me, just reading the Bible, that the rapture is a lie. And I read it and I'm like, you're right. And when I did that, I had like earned my right to preach from that Spanish pastor who was uneducated and didn't impress me. And that was part of the thing, because my education made me like impressive in my eyes to him. And I was like, well, I can speak Spanish and I'm white, so I'm obviously smarter than you. And he talked, like rough in Spanish, maybe more than me. I don't remember. I mean, Rafa was a good guy. I don't want to... Because here's the other thing, is that this Pastor Rafa, he was actually one of the best Spanish pastors I had ever seen. But the funny thing about it was, I mean, as far as preaching goes, it was really good compared to all the other Spanish pastors I've ever. I was like, that's part of why I started learning more Spanish. When I saw the Spanish preaching, I was like, what the heck? These guys are lost sheep. So, I studied more Spanish like I was earning it. And then when I saw from Rafa, when he was preaching and showed me and sat down with me and taught me, and I said, you're right. It's a lie. And then he said, now, why don't you preach for me? So it was almost like a test, but it was an earnings test of humility, you see. But if I was saying, oh, I won my right to preach here because I'm so smart, and that could have actually happened that way. You see what I mean? But because it was from the king, like a gift I had earned simply by being simply humble enough, simply by being simply humble enough, is that a double entendre or whatever? I don't even know what entendre means. They just love it when people say that word. It's like, that sounds really cool. Big words sometimes impress me, but I hate it when they're really big because I like simple words because I used to teach kids. So I thought, well, if kids can learn it, and if the kingdom is the kids, what the heck? Let's start with them. And now I think that's good because not anybody's educated anymore. I mean, really educated. Anyway. Brainwashing and education has blended. Anyway. So back to the old gana merece